This is Solve It for Kids.
Hello, my amazing and curious friends. My name is Jennifer, the Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, and this is Solve It for Kids, the science podcast that gives kids and families a peek inside the real world of scientists, engineers, and experts as they solve problems in their jobs using creativity, cooperation, and critical thinking. And now please welcome to the show my podcast partner, Galactic Space Geek, Jeff Gagne.
Hello, Jennifer, and hello, listeners. We are very excited about this episode today because we are doing something that we have not yet done in our first 5 years of this podcast.
Yes. So we are in our final week of celebrating 5 years of Solve It for Kids. Woo! And this one, we're going to show you which episodes were our top downloads, which ones that you all listen to the most.
Yes!
You might be surprised by some of these.
It's Solve It for Kids' 5-year anniversary. Here are our listeners' favorite episodes.
The first one is episode 195 with Victor Villegas. How can you use music to help get kids interested in STEM?
Oh, Victor is a fabulous guy, and he is so interested and interesting to listen to about how he does this. Wow.
Yes, exactly. How do you test a rocket without blowing it up? With Suzanne Slade, that's episode 16. That's from our way early episodes. And this one has been a big download, like, consistently. So we have lots of curious people who are like, how do you do this without blowing up a rocket?
If blowing up a rocket is in your title, I think we're going to get some downloads there.
That's true. Episode 122 with Dr. Rosa Leon Zayas. How do you get to the bottom of the ocean? This was a fabulous episode and so interesting.
Oh, absolutely. And with the submersibles that they go into, getting to the bottom of the ocean, this is one of those rabbit holes that if you start learning more about this, I promise this is going to be a new favorite topic of yours.
Yes, exactly. Episode 11, how do you build teeth out of soap? With Dr. Emily Swanson, who, yes, is my daughter-in-law, but this one gets lots of listening to because everybody is curious. Like, not only how do you build teeth out of soap, why would you? She's a dentist, people. She's a dentist.
And she's fascinating, and so is this episode. And with a title like that, how do you not want to know? Of course we want to know.
Exactly. And our last one is a newer episode, but has gotten lots of downloads. Episode 237, Why Should We Care About Bugs? With the Bug Chicks, who were
just
fabulous, right?
Yes, another one. You may not think about bugs in your life on a daily basis at all, but don't you worry, the Bug Chicks are doing it for us, and when they share it with us, it's awesome.
Yes, so enjoy clips of each of these episodes. We hope you have fun. What problem are we solving today?
How can you use music to get kids excited about STEM?
How can you use music to get kids excited about STEM? I think we might have a song or two in this one from our guest. Who is our guest today, Jeff?
Here's the deal. Our guest today is an incredible gentleman. His name is Victor Villegas. Listen up, everybody. During the day, he works at Oregon State University as their Broadband and Digital Technologies Adoption Coordinator. That sounds all serious and adult-like. But he is also known as the Drone Singer, or the Weird Al of drones.
Welcome to the show, Victor.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Happy to be here.
We are thrilled to have you. This is going to be such a fun episode, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we are going to talk all about music and how you can use it to make kids excited about STEM. So I have to ask you, as a kid, were you always into music?
Absolutely. My parents both loved music, and we had instruments laying around the house. They did this on purpose because they wanted us kids to learn music. So they, on purpose, had just different instruments laying around the house, and we naturally gravitated to that. And I learned guitar and piano and drums and pretty much anything I could get my hands on. My mom plays the piano and the organ. My dad plays guitar and mandolin. So yes, music was a big part growing up.
That's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, you said you had instruments just laying around the house, and you just mentioned a couple. I'm wondering right away, did you have instruments laying around the house that your mom or dad did not play, but just for you to be able to start learning?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, there was instruments that they played somewhat, but maybe they didn't play it to a very high level. And then I took it to the next level.
And then I've got to ask, of all those instruments, which one did you sort of latch on to first?
Oh my word. That's a tough one. It's kind of, saying who's your favorite child and things like that. But I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and the one I attach to the best is the one I have in my hands at the moment, right? So
yeah.
That's fair.
That's fabulous. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in a house full of music? My mom played piano, she played guitar, she played organ for the church. So it's a very unique upbringing, isn't it? It's, I don't know, it's like joyful or something.
Yeah, I loved it. We would sing, we would sing together, especially around Christmas times, holiday season.
We did that.
We're involved with church stuff too. My folks had records, 8-track tapes for those who are old enough to remember what those things were.
I remember those.
So I'd listen to records of like Chet Atkins and playing music.
Ooh.
We went on TV with the Lawrence Welk show and the accordion. My mom also played accordion. So it was, I just can't remember a time that we did not have music at home. It was just natural.
That was so. All right, I have to ask you a question since you're brought up kind of old shows. Did you ever watch Name That Tune?
Oh, absolutely.
So for those of you that are like, I have no idea what this show is, they would be like, can you name this tune in so many notes?
Right. And we're trying to see can you do it in like 3 notes or less, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we did that as a family too.
One of our favorite shows.
I know. That's so
great. So starting out in a house full of music,
yeah.
Did you end up continuing straight on, or did you get away from music and then come back to it later on in life?
No, it's always been a part of my life. I mean, I was like writing songs since I was a kid. My parents encouraged it and also wrote songs. I started taking formal music lessons when I was in first grade. I took like 3 weeks of piano and then decided I hated practicing. My sister continued, and she's a great piano player, and she plays, by note. But I decided that was like too strict for me. I later came back to piano back in high school and just learned how to play it by ear. Pretty good, to the point where people think I've taken a lot of lessons. But I have taken a lot of music lessons outside of piano. So let's see. I was very fortunate to go to school where in an elementary where we're taught to play the recorder, the flute.
Yes.
Sure.
I did that too.
Love the recorder.
So that was one of my first instrument. Actually, I was in kindergarten. So when we lived in Mexico for a while.
Right.
And believe it or not, they taught us how to play marching Mexican band on a drum. So they have bugle and drum corps in Mexico.
Wow.
Okay.
And we played and learned some of the cadences that drum and bugle corps. We didn't have bugles for the kindergartners, but we had little drums.
Yeah.
And we played the same things that, the basic stuff. And we actually marched for the Independence Day celebration in Mexico, along with all the other bands. And we were kindergartners, right? But that started the rhythm. That started the rhythm, and once you have the rhythm, the other stuff starts falling in place.
Exactly.
And I took guitar from my dad, and then took some more formal lessons. In high school, my main instrument was a trumpet, so I played that in band.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. And I just keep on adding instruments. I collect instruments and learn how to play them. Well, if you were able to see, I got like a trumpet back here. I got a guitar here, another guitar, a ukulele, a bunch of electronic synthesizers. I got a marimba on the other side.
Wow.
I even learned how to play bagpipes at one point, although it's been a while since I played that.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I understand those are difficult to play too.
They can be challenging, but it's just like everything else. You do it enough and you work at it, you can learn it.
That's fabulous. Okay, so now we have the music. How did we get to the love of science, technology, engineering, art, and math? How did you kind of start that and then bring them all together?
I've been very fortunate to have parents that encourage me to follow my passions and my interests. And from very young, I'd love going to libraries and museums.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too. Yes.
I loved learning. I just love learning.
Me too.
And anything I could get my hands on. Reading. Once I learned how to read, oh my word, everything was open to me.
Yes.
And I would just go to the libraries. And my main interests at the time were airplanes, aviation.
Yep.
I wanted to be a pilot. Loved art. I wanted to be an artist and a photographer. One of my grandfathers was a professional photographer.
Wow.
So I kind of wanted to follow that. And I wanted to later on work with technology. But the thing is, I didn't want to do one thing or the next. I wanted to do all at the same time, right? So I wanted to be a flying photographer who played guitar and taught and worked with technology.
How do you test a rocket without blowing it up?
How do you test a rocket without blowing it up? That sounds like a really important problem to solve.
I would think so. Kind of extremely important, especially because you spend all this money to create this rocket and, let's not have it blow up.
Yeah.
So we are honored to have on our show today engineer Suzanne Slade, who's going to talk to us about how you do these tests. But Suzanne is also a children's author. Isn't that cool?
That is amazing. I just can't wait. Can I say hi to Suzanne? Welcome her?
Absolutely.
Hey, Suzanne, welcome to Solve It for Kids.
Well, hi, Jen and Jed. I'm so excited to be here on Solve It. I have loved listening to your shows. You guys are awesome. And I can't wait to talk with you today.
Tell us a little bit about how you came to test a rocket. What did you do in your career?
Okay, well, Jennifer, this is a time when I worked at a company called McDonnell Douglas Space Systems out in Huntington Beach, California. And my job there was the test engineer. And so what would happen is McDonnell Douglas was creating, I worked on Delta and Titan rockets, which NASA would purchase to launch satellites that would help us get newscasts from around the world, would help us with our GPS that we use in our car and our phones. So as my job as a test engineer, what I needed to do was to make sure that the rocket was going to be safe when it launches, that it would launch and not blow up, okay? So what you need to do then as an engineer is you need to test the parts separately and then assemble some of them and test them again. So there's a lot of testing that goes on all along the way.
Now, Suzanne, one of the things we spoke to an engineer that was designing flying cars. And one of the things he said, and his job was, he was a tester, and he was saying his job was to break things. And so they took and they intentionally crashed the flying car, a bunch of different flying cars to see what broke and what stayed together. I'm guessing you can't intentionally crash a rocket.
This is true, right. And I also worked in automotive. Another job I had at another time was working on car brakes. And yes, as an engineer, sometimes you need to test something to its limit until it breaks. So then you know better how it will work in the vehicle you want it to be in. But you're right. In the case of a rocket, where rocket parts, even just the separate parts, are so expensive, you don't want to intentionally break them, but you do want to test them so you know they're safe. So to your question about not blowing up a rocket. One of the big problems we had to solve was when we tested what was called a liquid oxygen tank, or for short, a LOX tank. And this was the tank in a Delta rocket. It was used when the rocket first launched, and there was fuel in it, but it needed a lot of oxygen. You know how fuel needs oxygen to burn. So this liquid oxygen, if you compress it really tightly, now it's in the air, it becomes a liquid. So this big, huge metal LOX tank, or liquid oxygen tank, we needed to test it to make sure it would work. It wouldn't explode when it was on the rocket launching. So to do that, we would pressurize the liquid oxygen tank, which means you pump a lot of air in it, kind of like when you blow up a balloon, but right. We pumped more and more air. We would pressurize it to a certain pressure, and then we felt if it could withstand that, a higher pressure than it would be exposed to when it was in the rocket during the launch. So we pressurized it. And so what could happen, though, when you've got a huge metal object under great pressure, if it did fail, if it did break apart, it would essentially become a bomb. It would explode, and it would injure any of us test engineers or technicians who were testing it. So this was the problem. How do we test it safely, knowing that if it did fail, we all wanted to stay safe? So finally, often engineers, scientists work together as a team. You collaborate, you talk about ideas.
Right.
So we collaborated, and we decided what we needed to do was test it in a bomb shelter.
Oh.
And that is a structure with very strong walls that is made safe. So if a bomb did go off, it would stay contained in the bomb shelter.
Right.
So we had a bomb shelter built underground, and then we could go down, take this liquid oxygen tank and other large parts, pressurize it. And here is what I think is the interesting part. So what if there was a small leak in it? I mean, that's what we would want to find. How would we see a small leak if we're just pumping air in it? How do you think we would see it?
Colorize it.
That's a thought, but you'd need a very dense color to even see a small amount. So what we did was we used bubble soap, like what you use.
Oh, yeah.
But the technician would put bubble soap on all the joints and locations where we feared it might leak. And then you pressurize it, and then if you see little bubbles, even teeny tiny little bubbles, you have a leak. So something as simple as bubble soap could help save a whole space mission, right?
That's amazing. Now, so you've explained this, but I want to give our listeners some kind of spatial reference here. So how big is this tank that we're talking about? Can you describe it?
Roughly 25 feet in diameter.
So if you assume one story is 10 feet? Is that what on a house?
So. Mm-hmm.
So this would be like 2.5 stories. That's huge.
Right. A very large tank. Yes. And that's
why. And then how high is it too? Is it just the bottom part of?
It's basically spherical in shape. So basically a round shape. Yes. It's a very large, and that's why it was so dangerous when we pressurize it. Now, if we were pressurizing a small part, say something the size of my hand, that wouldn't be very dangerous if it exploded, right? But the bigger something gets and the more pressure you put in it, the more chance you have for a explosion.
We are going into the ocean deep dive.
Oh, I'm so excited for this episode. What problem are we solving today?
How do you get to the bottom of the ocean?
How do you get to the bottom of the ocean? I have a feeling this has to do with one of our very favorite institutions, Jeff. Who is our guest today?
Our guest today is the fantastic Dr. Rosa Leon Zayas, who is an assistant professor at Willamette University in Salem, Oregon, but who just returned from a wicked cool project with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution because she is a marine biologist.
Oh, welcome to the show, Dr. Rosa.
Hi, everybody.
We are thrilled to have you. So normally we start out asking how you got started, but now that we teased our listeners, tell us where you just came back from, because Jeff and I are just bursting with excitement.
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was just in one of the most incredible and amazing experiences of my life. I had the opportunity to join a scientific expedition in which we used the manned submersible Alvin.
Okay.
Yeah, Alvin is a manned submersible that has been in operation for many years.
Yes.
But in the last 2 years, it's gone overhaul and it got rebuilt to be able to achieve the deepest depths that it's ever been able to go to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Up to 2 years ago, the deepest that the Alvin could go would be 4,500 meters.
Which is pretty far. I mean, seriously.
Right.
Very far. Very far. It's about the average depth of the ocean, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But now, the Alvin can go to 6,500 meters.
Oh,
whoa.
gosh.
That is a big jump.
Yeah.
It is very big. And technically, that puts it to be able to explore the very surface of what we consider the deepest parts of the ocean, which we call the Hadal Zone. That zone in the ocean, the Hadal Zone, is the zone that I've basically spent all of my life, my scientific life, studying.
And now you got to see it. Yay!
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So just real quick for all of our listeners, in case you don't want to do the math in your head, 6,500 meters is roughly 20,000 feet below the surface of the ocean.
Wow.
Let's all just take a wow moment for a second, because that is truly incredible. And it's the deepest that the Alvin submersible has ever gone in our ocean. Wow, Dr. Rosa, that is so cool. Can you talk a little bit more about the Hadal Zone?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of listeners know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hadal Zone is what we call the zone in the ocean that lies below 6,000 meters in the ocean.
Wow.
And it goes anywhere from 6,000 meters to 11,000 meters in the deepest part of our planet's ocean.
Wow.
11,000 meters is really, truly an incredible depth, right? Many, many miles, many, many feet underneath the surface of the ocean. And those areas are mostly really found on what we call deep trenches.
Okay.
So the deep trenches basically hold those really incredible depths. The deepest trench in the world, which is the one that goes down to 11 kilometers, it's the Marianas Trench.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The deepest trench in the Pacific Ocean. And the deepest trench in the Atlantic Ocean is the Puerto Rico Trench, which is where the Alvin expedition that I was in was at, and the Puerto Rico Trench.
I didn't know they had one. So how deep is the Puerto Rican Trench?
The Puerto Rico Trench is about 8,300 meters. So 8,000 meters and 300.
Wow. I see. Now I've mostly heard about the Marianas Trench. Of course, that's the one that everybody hears about. I did not know that there was an extremely deep one over here. Can you tell us a little bit about how we think those trenches form?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a very interesting geological phenomenon, right? That happens really around the world, where two tectonic plates collide into each other. One of them is denser than the other. Then the denser tectonic plate sinks underneath the the less dense one, and it creates kind of like a funnel, like a divot, right?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
The Earth crust, and then that's how the trenches are formed.
That's also cool.
It really is. And just like Jen was saying, a lot of people have heard about the Marianas Trench.
Yeah.
You know, I think humans are fascinated with those extremes. The deepest place, the highest place, the coldest, the hottest. But there are other fascinating places that aren't necessarily all the way to the extremes that are just as cool to learn about. So I have a question. How deep
on this expedition did you go in the Alvin?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity, which was incredible, to be in the team of the first scientists that were able to dive with the Alvin at this incredible depths. And
wow, that's
our
awesome.
first dive, yeah, it was really incredible. Our first dive was to 6,047 meters.
Wow. That's
how long does it take to get down there?
I was going to say congratulations on that too, by the way.
Thank you. It's very great to be able. I mean, you know what? It was just in the backyard of my place of birth, right, in Puerto Rico. So that was
right.
Special.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Which even makes it better. But
yeah, it was definitely very special, and yeah, it was truly an incredible opportunity. It was so exciting.
How do you build teeth out of soap?
Okay, all right. First off, how do you build teeth out of soap? I want to know why you'd want to build teeth out of soap. I mean, the last thing I want in my mouth is a tooth made out of soap. That sounds gross.
Well, this, of course, is not for your mouth, but it's how dentists learn, which is a really cool idea. So on our show today, we have Dr. Emily Swanson, a dentist, who's going to talk to us all about it. And yes, to let you know, she is my daughter-in-law, which is really cool.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, welcome to Solve It for Kids, Dr. Emily.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. So Emily is, as I said, a dentist, and we all know that everybody has to go to the dentist to take care of their teeth and make sure everything's healthy, but she is going to help us solve the problem. How do you build teeth out of soap? And maybe why you would do that. So let's start with Emily. Tell us a little bit about your job. What do you do as a dentist?
So every day I help people take care of their teeth, and that means different things for different people. For a lot of people, that means you see me for 5 minutes when I check and say everything looks good, and then you get to go home. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. And so if you have a small problem, then a lot of times we're talking about doing a filling to fix a cavity. Sometimes we have to take teeth out. Sometimes we have to replace teeth, and there are a lot of different ways to do that. So I do a lot of different things every day helping people achieve health in their mouth.
I just have to say, put this on record, I have never, ever gone to the dentist's office and then 5 minutes later the dentist say, okay, you're good to go. Get out of here.
Well, maybe you don't take as good a care of your teeth as you should.
I don't know. Maybe. I just don't. I've had more fillings than I have teeth. So I don't know how that works, but it's true.
Well, but I think the other thing that dentists do is, of course, they teach us how to take care of our teeth. So do you have any tips for kids or adults for that matter? Jed, listen.
Yes.
How to take good care of your teeth?
There are two main things that you need to do, and that's brushing your teeth and flossing. Now, when you're a little kid, when you're 5 and 6, you may not be flossing because you have gaps in between all of your teeth, and that's the way it should be. But as you get older and you get all of your adult teeth, all of your baby teeth have fallen out, your teeth are going to be touching, and you need to clean in between those. You can't do that anymore with just your toothbrush. That's why flossing is really important. It keeps your gums healthy, and it gets in between those teeth where your toothbrush can't. You should be doing that once a day. Brushing your teeth, you should be doing twice a day for 2 minutes. So if you should get a timer out and time yourself and see if you're actually taking that whole 2 minutes to clean your teeth. And you want to get every surface of your tooth. You want to get the back teeth, the front teeth, behind them, on the side, all the way down to the gum line on the top and the bottom. You want to make sure you're cleaning your whole teeth.
I have a question. It's not about brushing my teeth. I'm trying really hard, but I don't understand why we have baby teeth and then big teeth. I mean, I don't have I have a baby finger. I have a pinky, but I didn't lose it and grow another finger. That seems to be like the only part of your body that falls out and then grows again.
Well, when you're a baby, you need teeth to start chewing things, but your big adult teeth wouldn't fit in your mouth at that point. So we have smaller baby teeth that grow in, and then once we as people have gotten big enough, then they start falling out and the bigger adult teeth come in after them.
So now we talked about what dentists do. Now I really want to hear about how and why you would build teeth out of soap and what a dentist would do with that, more importantly.
So when I am helping people fix their teeth, if you have a problem with your tooth, we're going to be doing a lot of different things where we need to create something that looks natural to replace part or all of your original tooth. So what we want is for when you smile, for it to be beautiful and look like it's always been that way. And also we want when your teeth come together, when you bite down, for it to be comfortable and feel normal. So for those two main reasons, we have to learn as dentists the anatomy, which means the shape of your teeth in detail. So teeth are not just round. If you look in your mouth, you'll see lots of hills and valleys, and you'll see all kinds of grooves and things in your teeth. Those are normal, and they need to be there for your teeth to fit together correctly. So what we do is, in order to learn the anatomy of those teeth, to learn the shape of those teeth, we build them out of soap or wax or other things when we're practicing.
Oh, wow.
That's
cool. I know, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you get a tooth that looks like a tooth in somebody's mouth? Are you just kind of carving the soap based on looking at it, or do you do a mold, or?
So there are several different ways. You can look at pictures, but it really helps to have something 3D. So when you're in dental school learning to be a dentist, they give you 3D models of teeth, and you try to copy that. Sometimes they'll give you a little model where half of it has been cut off, and they say match the other half, and you put wax on that little model to try and match the tooth. And then once you've mastered that, they give you just a little nub and say, now build a tooth on this and make it look right. So you kind of progress through the experience.
Wow, so not only do you need to have all that doctor, dentist kind of knowledge, but you have to be an artist too.
Yes. Dentistry actually combines a lot of medicine, a lot of art, and a lot of engineering. And that's what part of what I love about dentistry is that it combines all of those things into one career.
So what problem are we solving today?
Why should we care about bugs?
Oh, why should we care about bugs? Well, bugs, I think, are pretty important to our world. And I think we have some amazing people to talk to about this. Who are our guests today, Jeff?
You are right on both counts, Jen, and we have the guests to talk about for bugs today. We have Christy Reddick and Jess Honecker. They are both entomologists, and they are also known as the Bug Chicks.
Welcome to the show, Christy and Jess.
Hi, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, well, we are so excited to have you because we're going to talk about bugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which some of us love and some of us are, think they're cool, but maybe not so close, right?
Yeah.
So we like to start out with, as kids, did both of you always love bugs?
I love this question.
Awesome.
For me, I would say that I grew up pretty rural, and so bugs were everywhere. Bugs were a part of life, and I didn't honestly think much about them. I didn't really care one way or the other because I didn't feel like they really impacted how I was going through my day. And so for me, I was just kind of like, meh, they were there, and I didn't really give them much thought beyond that.
Okay.
I was terrified of spiders in particular, like specifically spiders. I was very, very afraid of them. And I loved animals. Okay, I'm going to be real clear. I was a real animal lover, but I did not make the connection until I was older that bugs, and when we say bugs, we mean arthropods. These are animals with exoskeletons and jointed legs, right? Jointed appendages.
Okay.
that they are animals. I didn't make that connection. And so I was very afraid of them. And my mother, it actually came from my mother. My mother was very afraid that I was going to get bitten by a spider. And so fear is contagious. And so I think, and I've spoken with my mother about this a lot, that she sort of helped me be more afraid because she was so afraid for me because she cared about me very, very deeply.
Right. Yep. That can happen.
Yeah.
That totally answers my first question on, do you remember why you might have been scared of them? So that's totally cool. Jess, I love the fact that yours was very indifferent. Like, I grew up and there were bugs, but I didn't really think about them one way or the other. So for each of you, one starting fearful, one starting indifferent, how did you grow into being a bug chick?
Well, for me, it was like that sort of indifference continued for me through college. My original plan was to do physical therapy. And so that was my track when I started in college. And then I was late registering for classes. And then I ended up picking an upper level science class because I needed that credit.
Right.
And it was an invertebrate zoology class.
Oh.
And so it wasn't like, arthropod specific. It was also like mollusks and slugs and, stuff like that. And so I took that class and the professor was awesome.
Oh, that can do it sometimes, right?
Yeah, definitely. And his name was Jim Joy. I mean, his name still is Jim Joy. But, he showed me that, I am actually impacted by these animals, which was not something that I really considered it.
Right.
And so I was able to move from that feeling of indifference to being like, they don't really have anything to do with me, to being like, oh no, they actually have everything to do with me and with everybody else on the planet. And so that really shifted how I viewed those animals. And so I started working in his lab, dissecting mosquito larvae, which is intense and
tiny, right?
Like tiny. It was all under a microscope. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With super, super pointy little forceps. And forceps are like tweezers, like science tweezers, right?
Yeah,
and so that sort of started my path into entomology. And then I scrapped physical therapy and I was like, I'm going to do bugs. And so I applied for grad school at Texas A&M.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Christy, did you have a similar kind of story there?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Well, it's funny. I have sort of a tale of two teachers. So I grew up as a dancer and an actor. So I grew up on stage and I didn't really, I spent time outside, but I was like in a theater like my whole life growing up. And it was just expected that I was going to be an actor. And I loved it. But I had this secret dream that I wanted to study animals in Africa. I had this burning desire, and I also was really into whales. And so,
who is it? Yeah.
Who's
whales
not
are
into
cool.
I don't even understand what people do if they're not into whales. How do they not think about them every day?
Exactly.
So when I was in 8th grade, I had a science teacher, and you had to test into the marine biology class in 9th grade. And I asked my teacher if I could take the test, and she said, "Oh, you don't have any aptitude for science. You should stick to what you're good at. You're good on stage." And so this is where a teacher can really sort of make or break. And I want to tell every student, teacher, parent, every person out there who is listening right now, that if you have something that you really want to try and do, you make that choice.
Yes.
No one else really knows your aptitude. You don't even know what you're capable of yet. You are capable of so much more than you think that you are.
Absolutely.
So I believed her and I thought, I guess I just am not good at science. And I went in and I have a degree now in theater and dance. And I went all the way through. And then I still had that secret dream. And I went, man, if I don't get to Africa now, I'm not going to do it. So I went back to school, met a professor, another teacher, Dr. Tim Yoho, and he was my entomology teacher. And it was the semester before I went study abroad in Kenya to study elephants and lions and the big cool animals. The big ones, right? The classics. And I took one entomology course and I was like, this is it. And then I went to Kenya and everyone is looking at the elephants and I loved it. I loved all of the large mammal stuff. But I fell in love with a camel spider and never looked back. I never looked back.
But you were afraid of spiders.
It is
How did
amazing.
this happen?
It is amazing. Fear and fascination are two sides of the same coin. And really, we are afraid of the things that we don't understand. We are afraid of the things that feel very different from us. But once you start to learn about the things that are really different from you, I think it really can shift to fascination.
Jennifer and I absolutely cannot thank you enough for making these 5 episodes our most downloaded as of today's date, because the downloads just keep happening, and as different things are found out in science, new discoveries are made, or new headlines make the news, different science topics always come back to the front. And all of our episodes are always out there and available. So whether it's teeth out of soap, getting to the bottom of the ocean, or finding out why you're going to care about bugs, even if you don't believe you will, these episodes in Solve It for Kids really do mean a lot to us. And we love knowing that this list means a lot to you.
Yes, exactly. So we are so thankful that we've been able to do this podcast for 5 years. Thank you all.
5 years. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us and being here with us on our journey. It has been so much fun. And we also have met so many amazing scientists and engineers and experts and all of these different things.
Yes.
At this point, we are going to take a longer hiatus over this summer. And we're going to kind of take this time to take a look at the podcast, and we're going to perhaps change things up. We're going to perhaps add a video component. We're going to look at all of these different things to really improve what we have been doing and to make sure that we are giving you what you're interested in, and that we are always focusing on the amazing science that's all around us. So if you would like to give us feedback on what you've heard so far or things you'd like to see changed, please reach out to us. You can email us through our website, solveitforkids.com. You can reach out to us on social media. We are at KidSolve at Facebook and Instagram. But we will see you hopefully in the fall, and with maybe a new type of show and things going on. But until then, don't forget to notice the science that's all around you every day.
All around you every day. Worth repeating, Jennifer. You hit it right on the nose. We have lots of episodes for you to listen to. We really hope you enjoy them. Until next time, you'll hear Jen and Jeff on Solve It for Kids.